Are you interested in becoming a more effective game designer? I'm Ryan, and this is the first video in a series talking about the 7 habits of highly effective game designers based on the principles found in the very popular self-help book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if your answer to that first question was yes, consider subscribing to this channel because Ludolodge is all about helping you grow in your journey as a game designer. And today, I'm going to be talking about the first habit of the 7 habits talked about in this book. Now, you may have heard of this book. It's pretty popular and has been around for over 25 years now. It makes pretty much every top self-help book list that I see around the internet. Whatever your opinion on the book is, I personally found that the 7 habits talked about in this book, I find myself coming back to them. Throughout my life, there's things that I'm working on or things I'm going through, and I find that they actually are very just powerful things to be thinking about and applying to different areas of your life. And being someone who spends a lot of my time thinking about game design, it wasn't long before I realized that, hey, these 7 habits it talks about actually can apply very directly to my life as a game designer. And I thought that would be interesting to talk about. So that's what this series of videos is going to be about. And without further ado, let's jump into the first habit. So the first habit discussed in this book is be proactive. So what does be proactive mean from the perspective of a game designer? I think I found that there's a lot of things that make you a good game designer, that areas that you can get better as a game designer. But regardless of all of those things, a lot of it boils down to you just have to start. You just have to start doing it. And you watching this, you may be at any point along that game design journey, right? You could be finding this video and you've never really done any game design at all. Maybe it's interested you and you've thought about it and always thought it would be fun, but you've never really, gotten into working on a project. Perhaps you're on the other end of that and you've, had projects that have been published games and you've established yourself as a game designer. And I think what's cool about a lot of the principles found in this book is that they tend to apply kind of wherever you're at. So you can be kind of really just starting out your journey along game design. And these principles are going to, I think, apply, and you're going to see ways of how they can help you in that. But you could be way far along in your game development journey and still find ways for them to apply. So kind of the universal truths that are found in these principles, I think, is what makes it interesting to talk about and interesting to think about, and hopefully we can all kind of figure out what it means for us to then take that step forward as becoming more effective as a game designer. And so if you're just starting out with game design, you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do I become a game designer? And let me just tell you, by definition, all you have to do is make a game. If you design a game, regardless of how good that game is or what it's like or if it's published or not, you are now a game designer, right? Like, just by definition, you have become a game designer. And I like to think of game design as this journey, this whole spectrum of lifetime learning that you can go through and explore, but don't get hung up on needing to become a game designer to design games. It's the other way around. If you start designing games, whether you know what you're doing or not, you are now on that journey as a game designer. So don't be afraid to just start, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's how you learn and you improve. And if you're further along than that, maybe you've been doing this for a long time, I think this still can apply in so many ways of just starting things, right? Like, maybe it's a project that you've had just running through your head for a while, but you haven't quite got around to just digging into it and starting on it. The habit of being proactive says, you take that initiative. You start, you take that step, that first step towards whatever it is that you're looking to do. And I think one of the other powerful things that comes out of this building a habit of being proactive is you'll find that opportunities start to come to you. Rather than waiting for opportunities to arise, someone with a very proactive mindset, they tend to find opportunities that they wouldn't have found had they not taken the initiative and been proactive. I can think of examples in my own journey with game design and other things in my life. But one example, I have a game that was successfully funded on Kickstarter called Tasty Humans that would have never happened had I not, a year earlier, decided to enter a 48-hour game jam. So it was you're given a theme and you have 48 hours to create a game based on this theme and then submit it. And going into that, I was just thinking, oh, that looks, one, kind of fun to try. Two, it would give me an opportunity to kind of just practice some of the tabletop game design stuff that I'd been thinking a lot about but hadn't done a lot of hands-on stuff yet. And I just thought, you know what, this would just be a good thing to do. And that was, me being proactive, not really with any vision of, oh, this is going to lead to something, this game, a game that's going to get published. That was the furthest thing from my mind. I was thinking I'm going to have fun doing this weekend. I'll come out of it hopefully with, sharpening my skills a little bit. But had I not done that, none of everything else would have happened with it, working with the publisher that was running the contest afterwards to develop it and then end up going to Kickstarter and having it funded. And now that's not always going to happen, right? I've actually had many examples of doing game jams or other things like that I did it, it was done, and I moved on, and I, gained skills from it or whatever. But I think you'll find if you are consistently proactive about what you're doing, whatever you're pursuing, and in this case, we're talking about game design, opportunities show up. It's the whole quote about, the more I practice and improve at something, the luckier I seem to get. There are some opportunities that you only are going to have a chance of encountering if you're proactive in putting yourself out there. And regardless of what your goals are, as a game designer, your goal may just be like, I want to dabble in it kind of as a hobbyist and just, I enjoy the process and think it's fun. Maybe your goal is very specifically, I'm looking to get games published, or maybe you're a video game designer and you're like, I want to get my games sold on Steam or some other online platform. Wherever your goals are, the path to that goal starts with the initial steps, right? And that's where the being proactive comes in. You have to take those first steps. You may have examples in your head right now of what that looks like for you or what that means for you. And I think what we can agree on is that, what keeps us from being proactive a lot of the time? A lot of times being proactive is scary. Depending on the thing, there's unknown, there's risk, and it can be hard to say, I'm going to take this step and just not worry about any of that. An example for me that's on my mind recently is starting this YouTube channel. This is something that I thought through, hey, I'm passionate about talking about game design and trying to help other people with game design and that collaborative effort. And I know I will probably get a lot out of recording these videos and thinking about these topics, and I know all that's good. But at the end of the day, I had to sit down and start recording videos. And, there is some scariness in that, and like, kind of, oh, am I going to know what I'm doing? Are people going to like the content? All this kind of thing. But it's like, you just take the step. You take the step. You start doing it. And that's what Habit 1's all about. And so, as a game designer, I want you to think now, for you, because again, we're all on a different place in this journey, right? This is all it's gonna look different depending on where you're at. But I want to pose this question. What can you do in the next 24 hours? We're talking a day's time, that would proactively take a step on your path as a game designer towards whatever your goals are as a game designer. I want you to think, what is that? And it can be small, and it probably is small. The right answer to that question probably is something small. But what's the thing that you could do? You could take the initiative to do that's going to move you towards your goals as a game designer. I would love if you could leave that in the comments below. I want this to be not just me talking at you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of what does this mean for you. And I think, like I said, what's cool about it is it really applies wherever you're at. And there's never any shame in being at any one place on the journey of learning, because anybody that's further ahead on that at one point was where you are at now. So leave that in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a thumbs up, and stay tuned for the upcoming videos in the series, and I will see you in the next one.